again! I know this isn't a Murder Drones redesign video, but that's because redesigning characters like Khan is a little difficult. But since Vocaloid characters have a bunch of different outfits for their music videos, I thought it'd be neat to make my own. But instead, I am doing the UTAU girls. The one I wanted to do first was definitely Dafuko, especially since she's actually, I'm pretty sure, the original UTAU, or the first one, or the first voice that actually came with the UTAU program. And since her voice comes from this thing called Aquas Talk, I think that's how you're meant to pronounce it, I'm pretty sure that makes her voice entirely machine generated. But her voice bank does have a creator, and that being Amiya, or at least that's how I think it's pronounced. Again, I'm sorry if I mispronounce anything. And while we're on the topic of her voice, here's a clip of it that I got from the wiki, which is where I'm getting all the information I have on these three. One of my favorite things about the UTAU program is how robot-ish their voices all sound, which I do like. However, I think Dafuko's does sound a little muffled in some songs. It doesn't detract too much for me personally, but I do kind of wish she sound, a little less muffled. Her birthday is February 5th. She's described as cool and friendly, but apparently bullies Momo, and that makes me a little sad because Momo's definitely my favorite out of the three of them. She has a younger sister, an older brother, she's friends with Momo and Teto, and has two others who share a similar voice to her. And this is a bit of a fun fact for all three of them, but since Momo, Teto, and Dafuko are the first to come from the UTAU program, according to the wiki, they are called the 3 UTAU girls, which I find very fun. And that's all the noteworthy things I had, so we can now talk about the design I gave her. Since Dafuko is the first to come from the UTAU program, I wanted to make her look the most robotic out of all of them, so that meant adding a bunch of the extra lights that appear on their clothes. If I find pictures, I'll show it. And since Dafuko has the blue earpiece and the blue ring almost on her tie, I thought that'd be a good opportunity to use the blue more. I made her hair a little longer, changed the earpiece a bit, I added more lights to her, I gave her a coat almost, and I made her shoes into heels and added lights on the outsides of them as well. I kept the ring piece on her tie, I just moved it up a little bit, and gave her white gloves. You're kind of going to see it in the speed paint, but I made the mistake of directly color picking for her skin from her original image, so she looks really pale standing next to Teto and Momo, but I'm kind of fine with it because she's supposed to look the most robotic out of all three of them, so I'll just say it was all a part of my plan. But that's kind of all I have to say for her design, so we can go on to Momo now. And don't worry, we're going to see all their designs at the end of the video. Unlike Dafuko, Momo does have a human voice, and it is from the voicer on screen. She sang the Nyan Cat song. She's a housekeeping robot that can sing, described as sincere, obedient, shy, and sensitive and working at her own pace, but despite this, she's described as being able to exert great strength and is also very fast. And something so far I haven't seen utilized in music videos much is that she can detach her head from her body and communicate with electrical devices, which makes me sad that I don't see them that often because I feel like that'd be really cool. However, people straight up stealing her head has become such an issue that it's described as one of her dislikes in the wiki, and like any other functional person, cockroaches are also listed. And similar to Dafuko, she's a friend of Teto and also has an older brother. But that doesn't seem to be the extent of her relatives or relationships with other people, because apparently, just for reference about how deep her lore seems to go, there is this thing called the God of Robots, and he straight up appears to Momo in her dreams. There does seem to be lore or a story to her character, or at least some sort of background information, which I'm not going to get into because that could be a whole video in itself, which I might do, because like I said, Momo is my favorite character, and reading her wiki has only made me like her even more. So I definitely recommend you check it out if you're interested in it. And if you're interested in Momo as a character or other stuff relating to her, there is a Twitter account on screen that you can follow. But that is all the noteworthy things I wanted to take from her wiki, so we can now talk about her design. I was originally struggling what to put on her dress because I knew what the silhouette looked like, I just didn't know what to color it, and then it came to me. Strawberries. I was going to inspire her dress based off of a strawberry. I made the top layer of her dress like a strawberry pattern. I made her sleeves red, and I made her apron almost two-sided, where it obviously appears in the front like a normal apron, but appears in the back also like a train. I made her Mary Jane shoes green instead of brown, light green socks. I didn't change the earpiece too much, but I did add a green bow on her chest, and I changed her bonnet to look almost like cat ears since she sang the Nyan Cat song. I still wanted to incorporate the fact that her and Dafiko and Teto are still one of the first UTAU voices to come from the program, so I kept the earpiece and the shoe piece. And around here you'll see how pale I ended up making Dafiko look next to characters like Momo and Teto. And in this piece and Teto, I wanted to practice color theory just a bit, so I ended up looking up green and red's complementary color and adding that as shadows, because apparently in traditional mediums that makes the shadow look darker, so I thought I'd try it out a bit. I'm also just a little interested in color theory as a whole, so it was kind of fun to try out, but I definitely want to make a whole separate study based off of it. But that's the last few things I wanted to share about Momo, so we can now move on to our last design, Teto. Teto also has a human voice behind her voice, and it is the person on screen. And this is her creator. And as most people know, originally started as a joke, but too many people liked her and decided to make her an official UTAU voice, and was even added to Project Diva in October 10, 2011. Although an attempt was made to turn her into a vocaloid, it didn't seem to really happen. On her Wikipedia page, I couldn't really find a list of friendships she has, but based off of Dafiko and Momo, we can assume she's friends with them. And based off of a search I did, she's also friends with 3 other UTAUs, them being Ruko, Ritsu, and Sukani. At least I think I'm pronouncing her name right. Again, I'm sorry if I'm not. And if you wanted to add to that, or if you thought Triple Baka could be a part of her friend group, you could say Miku and Neru are also her friends, so she's got a pretty big friend group. This would make Teto a part of 3 different trios, so good for her. And now that I've gotten all like the wiki stuff and some information about her out of the way, we can talk about her design. And for her design, I wanted to take inspiration from like all 3 of the designs she's had for each voice bank, like her UTAU, the Synth V one, and I'm not sure what the 3rd one is, but I really like this one, so I wanted to take inspiration from it as well. I didn't change her hair too much because I really like Teto's hair. Any character with like, I think it's like twin drill hairstyles, I love them so much. And the inspiration I got from each design was the long shoes the UTAU design had, and the colors from the Synth V one and the voice bank that came after that. For Teto's design, I kind of wanted to keep like that UTAU style some of the UTAU voice banks have. I'm not sure how to describe it, but I'll put up some pictures of what I mean, because I've felt like, at least I've always felt like, that UTAUs have their own like unique style of clothes. I'm not sure how to describe it, but I really like it, and I wanted to try to keep that in her design, especially since her starting off as a joke and actually becoming a UTAU is kind of like an important piece to her, I feel. So I wanted to keep that like design vibe of her being a UTAU, especially since I kind of just like a lot of the UTAU designs. But with that being said, that's all of them. I really enjoyed designing these 3. I could design things like all day long, so I really did enjoy this, and I hope you like them. But that's all I have for now, so goodbye!